Francis Catino Mobley in the backcourt. Jim Jackson up front with Yao Ming and Kelvin Cato. And for the Dallas Mavericks, who have won their last two, they come in at 5-3. Backcourt of Steve Nash back from the shoulder injury. Michael Finley. Antoine Walker by way of the Boston Celtics. Danny Fortson, who came in the trade from Golden State. And Dirk Nowitzki, averaging better than 20 points. New Jersey Meadowlands, we had the rain delay because of the leak in the ceiling as the Indiana Pacers and the New Jersey Nets attempted to get underway. And again, a problem with the clock. And I believe Craig Sager has been checking out what exactly the problem has been. Let's go to Craig.
Well, Marv, the 24-second clock is working, but the problem is that they have to synchronize it with the lights, because we have, at the end of each quarter, of course, we have to see if the shot is good. And they had it plugged into the wrong position, and so therefore they could not reset it. But now they have everybody convinced that they've unplugged it and put it where it's supposed to be, and we can reset the 24. Very minor adjustment here at the beginning.
Perhaps more information than we needed. Half minute gone by here in this opening quarter as Cato is not able to hit, and Nowitzki ends up with the basketball. Here come the Mavericks. Nash being played by Francis. And this is Antoine Walker for three. Kept alive by Finley.
Certain concerns at the defensive end for Houston. One is Kelvin Cato trying to play Walker. Walker, who will come off screens, pop out, get behind the three-point line. Cato used to sinking deep in the lane to protect the basket.
And there is our first bucket of the night. Michael Finley has given the Mavs a 2-0 lead. Yao Ming now being played by Danny Fortson, who goes 6'8", rebounded by Dirk Nowitzki. A crossover attempted and stolen by Cato.
And you say, how did Cato wind up on Nowitzki? That's because a lot of times Dallas will cross match, and you have to take the guy that's playing you when you run back in transition. You just can't go find your man, or you'll leave somebody else open.
Rockets want Yao to go right at Fortson, and he does. It's tipped home. Looked like Nowitzki actually tipped it in.
Marv, when you watch Dallas come back on defense, watch the players holding up hand signals to Don Nelson and the staff. They're giving them Houston's calls so that later on in the game they may go to some automatic defenses based on the calls that they know.
Well, Nowitzki scoring at both ends, inadvertently at the other end, and Cato being the closest to the bucket got credit, and then Nowitzki right back.
It's one of the things that happens when you play against Dallas. You're cross-matched all the time. You're going to find yourself guarding a point guard one possession, a power forward the next, but they can all shoot, they can all handle the ball. It's a very difficult team to defend.
And you know, Don Nelson just loves having a guy like Antoine Walker. He loves the point forward concept. Good hustle by Fortson, and they'll jump it up. Although Don Nelson has been talking to Antoine Walker about throwing less risky passes. He did have 9 turnovers in a game last week against Toronto. He'd like him to cut down on turnovers.
And he told us earlier that he's only put in about half the offense for Antoine Walker from the point forward spot. He's still not comfortable, and I think as he gets more and more comfortable running the different sets that Dallas runs, we'll see him handle the ball more and more. But until then, we'll see a lot of Steve Nash.
The plus of having Walker as the point forward is you now allow Nash to run along the baseline, come off screens. Plus, he's a John Stockton type of screener for them. He really sets some great solid screens on big men.
Rockets with the ball. Mavericks have a 4-2 lead. We are just underway. We've had a couple of false starts because of the clock difficulties.
You can see what Houston's trying to do at the offensive end is get that mismatch. They've had Cato twice now defended by somebody they think he can take it inside on, and he hasn't converted yet.
Nowitzki looking to elude Jackson and is able to hit the rainbow.
So amazing. 6'11", can shoot from anywhere on the floor. He's got a pretty good defender on him too in Jimmy Jackson, but here he just uses his size.
And the outside official, Mike Callahan, with the call away from the ball.
Remember, Nowitzki at 6'11" is being guarded by a small forward here, Jimmy Jackson. So he elevates, gets a clean look, and then a little bit of fade. There's no way Jackson can really challenge that shot.
And a holding foul on Finley.
You know, it's really pick your poison with Nowitzki, because if he's too big for Jimmy Jackson and they decide to put Kelvin Cato on him, then he's too quick for Kelvin Cato, and it's a familiar theme no matter who Dallas is playing against. It's just almost an impossible matchup.
Yao Ming putting the move on Danny Fortune once again. Fortune able to hold his ground and then comes away with the rebound.
When you're giving away that much size, all you can hope to do is get that chest into the big man, body up against him, so put some pressure on him, hold your arms up so the official doesn't think you're stopping him from going to the basket.
Walker turned it over, and it ends up with the Steve Francis bucket. Nash with a dribble handoff to Fortune. Back it goes to Nowitzki. Rebounded by Yao. Jackson, yes. Jim Jackson. Rockets started out only 1 of 7 from the field. They now have tied the game at 6.
How do you explain the number of teams that Jim Jackson has been with? Why does he not stay with one team?
11 teams now he's played for, as Nowitzki lays it in. I think we talked about this last time, didn't we? My take on Jimmy Jackson is that he's a very good player, good enough to be an impact guy on a lot of teams, but not quite good enough to be a mainstay anywhere. And people like him, but they're willing to move him on.
And it's Jackson again. He was originally a first-round draft pick of the Dallas Mavericks back in 1992, but certainly made the rounds. Houston is now his 10th team in 12 years. Here's Antoine Walker for 3. And it's a 2-on-1, make it a 3-on-1 developing as Jackson trails the play, but Dallas got back.
They did not handle that break well at all. That should have been a layup.
They had 2-on-1 to start it out and wound up being stopped by just Nowitzki being back.
And Nash guns it down. Here's Nowitzki. It counts, and the foul on Mobley.
Problem when your guards either get caught on the baseline, buried on the baseline, or they wind up going to the basket. Who's left to cover the backcourt? Nowitzki ran out. Mobley tried to get back and get him in time. Acknowledges the great pass from his partner, Steve Nash.
And that's why Jeff Van Gundy told us today they cannot afford to turn the ball over tonight. Dallas is just too good in the transition.
And that's a rare miss at the line. Dirk, one of the better free throw shooters, 85% this season.
Another problem, Steve, is your guards normally are 2 of the players that get back and protect in transition defense. One of Steve Francis's strengths as he tees up a 3 and misses it is going to the offensive board. So if he's crashing, it's tough for him to get back and cover the backcourt. So you got to get him to back off a little bit against a team like Dallas.
Coming up on 6 minutes remaining in the first quarter, and the Mavericks have a 10-8 lead on the Rockets. Antoine Walker getting good position on Jim Jackson.
Beautiful move, and I'd like to see him do more of that. You know, he's in Boston. He casted 8 threes a game in the last couple of years. He's taking about 4 a game this year so far, but he's been to the line 8 times in 5 games. That's not enough for a guy with those type skills, with that size.
A beautiful move by Mobley. One of his former TNT colleague, Danny Ainge, now the general manager of the Boston Celtics, who actually had made it clear on TNT telecast as Finley misfires on a 3 that he was not a great fan of Antoine Walker, and then made the deal with the Mavericks just before the start of the season. Deal involving Tony Delk and Rafe LaFrentz. And here is Antoine in action.
Well, Danny Ainge may have traded him, but he's a pretty talented guy.
Zoner man. What Jeff Van Gundy's telling the team is, when you come down and start worrying about which kind of defense Dallas is playing, man-to-man, 2-3 zone, 1-3-1 zone, we become hesitant. He doesn't care what defense they're in. He wants them to run one offense, horns, against either man-to-man or a zone or combination, so that they don't waste time on the clock and they play aggressively rather than tentatively.
You know, it's interesting. Nelly will frequently use a zone in order to kickstart his fast break, and you don't normally think of a zone as upping the tempo, but as Jeff Van Gundy said, sometimes you get confused against a zone, which makes you hesitant. All of a sudden, you're not having a good offensive possession, and bam, Dallas is running it down your throats the other way.
Antoine Jamison has come on after a slow start. Missed his first 6 shots. He's hit on his last 4. Mavericks have a 42-38 lead on the Rockets. Yao able to get to that floating pass thrown by Francis.
So they went right into Yao by design, coming out of the timeout against Nowitzki, and the pass was a pinpoint pass, exactly where it had to be.
Last touched by Houston. Coming up in the second of our doubleheader, Sacramento at Portland. Coming up at halftime, it'll be E.J. Kenny and Charles in the studio on the Verizon at the half, and they'll take a look at Sacramento and Portland. Kevin Harlan, Doug Collins will bring it to you. And again, it's Jamison. So he's hit his last 43% shooting by the Rockets, 17 of 40 from the field. Mavericks 22 of 48 at 46%. Look at Dallas, 1 of 9 from downtown. They actually missed their first 8. 14 assists for Dallas on 22 field goals. Not bad, not quite what they did the other night against New Orleans. They had 40 assists on 54 field goals.
Oh, that helped to get Jim Jackson off on this roll. High pick and roll. Steve Francis comes off the screen and splits the two defenders and gets right into the painted area. This is where he's got to make a decision. Does he want to shoot this, or does he know that his teammate is waiting behind the three-point line and fire it back out for an assist? His decision, kick it out. Let's get Jimmy Jackson going with the 3 from downtown.
And he's now 3 for 3 from beyond the three-point line. The folks here in Dallas certainly remember Jim Jackson back in the 94-95 season. He averaged just under 26 points per game among the scoring leaders. 17 points for Dirk Nowitzki.
Mike, that little split of the screen and roll that you talked about, do you remember a guy who played for you who kind of made that split popular and famous in this league?
Yes, a point guard who wasn't a bad jump shooter or free throw shooter, Mark Price.
And then Terrell Brandon followed him and kind of
he
used
split
that
him
move
too
as well.
because he practiced against Mark.
That's
all
right.
the time.
Mark was the best I ever saw at that little split. He was amazing.
What a great player. A great player, Mark Price.
Phenomenal.
Yao Ming now has 12 points. Here's Finley. And the Mavs lead at 55-53.
Mark, talking back to when Jimmy Jackson played for Dallas, a couple other guys that weren't bad players on that same team. Jason Kidd, Ashburn, guys who could put up some points, run the break.
And the foul is called on Yao. That's his second. Yao Ming got off to a slow start, but has come on now, has 12 points, 6 assists. The #1 overall pick in last year's draft, had an outstanding rookie season. Jeff Van Gundy has been emphasizing to get the ball in to Yao. He says he's got 7'5" of upside. Says it's not only size, it is quality size. And Yao's stats have certainly picked up. Steve Nash. That's his second bucket. He has 6 points. Dallas with a 57-53 lead. Francis and Mobley in the backcourt. Cato with Jackson and Yao on the front line. Here is Francis.
Nash went down the lane again. That was one of the key points of emphasis, that they must keep him out of the lane and not give up those easy layups.
Yao looking for position on Bradley. Francis not able to find him. Francis forcing a bad shot with the shot clock running down. Did not hit the rim, so the ball back to Dallas.
He put his hand up in the air right away. There's Steve Francis' hand up saying I know I took a bad shot. I know I dribbled the ball too much. I didn't move the ball. All things Jeff Van Gundy has been emphasizing to him. Get it done with less dribbles, using up less time on the clock.
9th turnover committed by Houston. Dallas with only 3. Antoine Walker. He's played very well. 17 for Walker.
Got a bounce to his step, too. You can see he's just so much more confident all of a sudden.
Dallas has opened up its biggest lead of the night. They have a 10-point advantage with 3:09 remaining in the third.
Padgett runs into his own man right there, trying to recover. He goes underneath. Walker goes over the top, and it's another hoop.
First 8 games of the season.
And we haven't even seen Tony Delk tonight because of his injury, but he was a part of that trade that not a lot of people talked about. Tony Delk could play, and he's going to be a nice addition to this team. You can see the balance, and somehow Dallas is going to have to find a way to share the ball all year long and keep everybody happy, because it's not easy with all this firepower.
There's Tony out with a strained left hamstring. The Mavericks on fire here in this third quarter. They've hit 8 of 10 from the field.
Good timeout by Jeff Van Gundy. The frustration growing because things seem to mount up. Your turnovers, your bad shot selection, and the other team compounds it by going down and starting to make every shot. You got to try to slow them down and get your team reorganized.
Mochi Norris, who just checked in, tried to go backdoor, but surprised his teammate.
Zone is just killing Houston right now. At some point, they have to get the ball inside against the zone, and they've got to get to the foul line because it's just too tough to make outside shots the whole game.
What did you do in San Antonio against the zone? A special attack, or basically get it into Tim's hands and then let him make decisions?
Well, we had a zone offense that usually had Tim Duncan down on the block. I mean, obviously, anytime you throw the ball into him, you're going to be in pretty good shape. But we tried to get the ball inside first before anything else.
Eduardo Nahara making his first appearance of the night. Mavericks super sub last season. Originally a second-round pick of the Rockets, a guy who's always on the move, a high-energy player.
A nice compliment to the rest of this squad, because he's a guy who doesn't need the ball. He's going to go after every rebound. He's going to knock people around. Kind of their enforcer, really.
Torrey Braggs, a rookie from Xavier of Ohio, is back on the floor for Houston. Just under 3 to go in this third quarter. It has gotten away from the Rockets. They're down by 12 and a foul against the Mavericks. It is their third team foul. It is on Nahara.
I think Jeff Van Gundy's got to go back to Yao Ming here soon against this zone especially. He's such a big target down there. He's the guy they could get the ball to at least attack this Dallas defense.
Shot clock down to 5. Rockets having difficulty finding a shot. Francis. And back comes Nash. Here's Finley on a catch and shoot. Jamison able to sweep it and score. The quickness of Antoine Jamison.
That's one of the reasons they brought him over here. He's a great offensive rebounder.
And the Dallas Mavericks now lead 77-63. Jackson for 3. Well, he hit his previous 4. Padgett able to get to it, and a foul against the Rockets. And Padgett upset. And fortunate that he was not hit with a technical foul. We tossed it at the official. Foul is called on Francis, his second. So Nash will go to the line. Steve Nash, one of the best free throw shooters in the league, 91% at the line last season.
You know, Marv, we talked about the decision about whether to put Yao Ming back in the game. I think Jeff Van Gundy's got one of those which way do I go decisions, because he's got to have him in offensively, but defensively, this small Mavericks lineup has been giving him a lot of trouble. So he's got a tough decision, and one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't type deals.
Well, how many times has that come up already this season with other teams, the decision to size down to match up or try and take advantage and go the opposite direction, bigger than them, and then you wind up hopefully having the advantage.
Francis scores, and he is fouled. A sensational shot by Steve Francis as he was rocked by Antoine Walker.
It's a second sensational play. We saw the drive earlier by Steve Francis. This falling back, jumping into the next defensive man, rotating over. He still concentrates on the jump shot, floating to his right, landing on his back, makes it, and goes to the line to try and complete the three-point play.
But still, that's the best attempt they can get at the rim against this zone.
Francis with his 13th point. Boshan Nakbar has checked back in for the Rockets, second-year player from Slovenia. 79-66 Dallas. Jamison is rejected. Last touch by Nakbar. They have 6 on the shot clock. Nash and Finley now at the guards with Walker, Nahara, Jamison up front. Very small team on the floor for the Mavericks. Nahara with the high-stepping dribble. So Nahara takes it to the rim.
Another tough matchup for Cato. Another guy going by him from the perimeter, off the dribble. And as you mentioned earlier, Steve, this is new for Cato, trying to guard smaller perimeter guys and have to move his feet. Offensive foul called on the inside on the post-up for Houston.
I think Nahara may have gotten away with a little push-off on that last drive. You'll see him catch on the perimeter. Cato out of position, gets his feet tangled up. But watch the left arm. That's an offensive foul.
Kelvin Cato on the foul. Jeff Van Gundy saying to his backcourt of Norris and Francis, poise, poise. It's a 15-point Dallas lead. We're final minute of the third quarter. Rockets have now turned it over 11 times. Jamison for 3. And here comes Norris, gets it ahead. Francis, Steve Francis on the break.
And the nice thing about that is, by him pitching it out in front, getting the transition score, they still will get one more shot to end this quarter once Dallas gets its shot up here.
Walker backing his way and is called for the offensive foul. Good job by Nakbar.
Antoine doesn't like it, but that's a good call.
I thought the official waited and got his thoughts straightened out. He almost called the block. He thought about it for a second, delayed it, and then called the offensive foul. I think it was the right call.
Well, you know why he almost called the block? Because it was Antoine Walker versus Bojan Nakbar. He wasn't going to give the young fella that much respect, but then he realized, I better call that. That was a charge.
Final seconds of the quarter. Jackson from downtown. That's his 5th three-pointer. Whoa. That's the end of the third quarter. So the Rockets, with a run here at the end of the third, they come within 10. 5 Dallas players in double figures here tonight, led by Dirk Nowitzki with 19. Antoine Walker has 17. We're headed to the... Walker gets it inside. Bradley with the sweeping hook and a late whistle. And the Rockets upset. Mike Callahan, the outside official, calling it on Yao.
Tough call.
The sweeping hook shot by Bradley. Yao moving into him as he's up in the air. Yao moved into him and underneath him. That's a good call because he actually made Bradley drift on the hook shot another foot or 2 further than he would have come down normally.
Yeah, I agree. The replay showed a little bump, and it's a good call.
And bumping you when you're 315 pounds does have an effect on the hook.
Dallas up by 14. Mavericks looking to go 6-3. Rockets coming at 5-1, 4 straight wins. Here's Paget for 3. Did not make contact with the rim.
They still haven't closed the door, have they?
It has been a rough second half for long-range shooting. 5 minutes remaining in the fourth. Nash is fouled. He's blocked on the play by Francis.
You know what happens? A lot of guards, Steve, as you know, they start to turn the corner. They put their head and shoulder down. When the defense moves its feet 3, 4 times, the offense tends to give up and they back at it. And Nash doesn't. He keeps going. He's relentless in trying to turn the corner. He's going to keep going. The defense generally gives up at the last second.
Nice play, and Finley is able to serve up a facial
Against Phoenix, and this is a loss. You learn from it, and now go get the next win. Get win number 6 tomorrow night.
Bradley showing us the perimeter touch.
I think it's part of establishing your identity as a team. You have to always compete, even when you're down in these situations. You got to continue to play.
Bradley on the rejection of Jackson. Rockets just 2 of 14 from the field in the fourth quarter.
sure Jeff Van Gundy will welcome back Eric Piatkowski with a big hug and a kiss, perhaps.
Yes, he will welcome the long-range shooting ability of Piatkowski. Jackson able to finish. 93-79 Dallas.
Well, I'll tell you who was playing very well was Maurice Taylor. Taylor really was playing extremely well coming off the bench for Houston. So that's another big loss. Piatkowski from the perimeter. Taylor can go inside and hit that 20-foot jumper as well.
Bradley. Crowd was looking for Sean to take the shot.
And you know what's happening? He's hearing it from the crowd.
Yes, he is. In a very positive fashion. 5 points for Bradley. Yao lost it. It's a 3-on-2 for the Mavericks. And now Finley pulls it back. Nowitzki off the fake. And it is a foul on Yao. Yao looking for the block. He had a career high against Miami the other night, 7 blocked shots, but he's called for the foul. That's his 4th. Been a long night for Yao Ming.
Well, when you come in as a new head coach in a situation, you try and take one thing at a time and correct it or change it or make it better than it was before. One of the areas that Houston has had problems with in the past, they have very emotional guards. Mobley, Francis, Moochie Norris. And one of the things Jeff Van Gundy's been trying to do is get them to stay off officials, concentrate on the game. When things aren't going well, don't get frustrated and compound it by having more turnovers. So every once in a while, you'll see their guards kind of bite their lip when something takes place. Trying to buy into what the coach has been talking about, get themselves under control, relax, be patient out there.
And Jeff Van Gundy just cleared the floor.
Get themselves under control, relax, be patient out there.
And Jeff Van Gundy just cleared the floor as he has taken out his 5 starters. And he has put a new unit out there, feeling that obviously this game is over. Mike Wilkes with the ball. This is Boschia Nakbar. Alton Ford. And Torrey Braggs able to score.
That was a very nice job, by the way, of attacking the zone. After they swung it around the perimeter, they basically flashed someone into the high middle of the lane area and then backcut somebody. Wilkins went to dunk one. They leveled him, just laid him out on his back. The promotion almost got our star player killed that night.
No chicken for you.
Sorry, the game is over. Do you have any more anecdotes you'd like to relate?
I'm leaving.
That's it?
I'm leaving.
So the Mavericks have defeated the Rockets 97-86. Dallas now 6-3. Houston goes to 5-2.